Hello everyone, welcome to this live session of Geeks and Geeks Python channel. Let me just test the audio first.
Hello everyone.
Yes, so the audio seems to be working fine now. Okay, so welcome to this session, and the topic for today's discussion is decorators and wrappers in Python. Okay, so we will discuss about what are decorators, what are wrappers, and then we will implement a small example so that we get to see what can be the use cases of uh, using decorators and wrappers. Okay, so we will see a small example, and yeah, we'll see the implementation of that. So let's get started. So the first thing that we will do is first we will understand what are decorators and wrappers. Then I will explain to you how we are going to build our example today. And I mean, what basically is the theme of that example. And then we will jump to the code section of that so that everything is linked and understandable. Okay. Okay. So first we'll understand what are decorators and wrappers. So you would have seen functions, right? So how you define a function, you write uh, def, then you take some parameter, and then inside you write the code, right? And then at the end you return something. Now this is function, right? This is how functions are defined in Python. Now what is a decorator? Let's say I want to make use of this function which I've defined. I want to make use of this and I want to modify its content. Okay, so let's say my function is printing something. Okay, print something. So now what I want in this print, after this print something, I want to print something else. Okay, so I want to add this functionality in this function. So initially it was printing something. Now I want one more print statement, which is something else. Okay, I want this to be included uh, in the definition of this. The function should also incorporate this second print statement, right? So what I'll do is that's basically the job of decorator. Okay, so I will define another function, which is my decorator, and this will take this function as a parameter. Okay, so this decorator function will have a parameter, and the parameter is this function itself. Okay, and then inside this decorator I will write a wrapper. Okay, so I have this decorator function which takes this function as a parameter, and then I define a wrapper function inside that decorator function. Okay, and inside the wrapper function I will write the code which I want in this function. Okay, so inside this wrapper I will execute, let's say this function name is a. Okay, so I have my function is, original function was a, and it takes, basically it doesn't needs a parameter, but for sake of explanation I have written parameter. So let's say the function name is a. So inside this wrapper what I'll do is I will execute a. Okay, and then so once a is executed, your print something was done, right? Now inside I want one more functionality, which is print something else. I want this statement, print something else. So I will write print something else, right? So now what my wrapper is doing, my wrapper is adding this functionality to this a function. So my a function is also getting executed, and my functionality, new functionality, which is the print something else statement, that is also getting added. So basically the name is very self-explanatory. So decorator is basically responsible for decorating a function, and wrapper is the piece of code which you wrap over the original function so that you get something new, right? So the terms are very self-explanatory. The one function is decorators, which basically are responsible for modifying the code, which takes that function as a parameter. And then the inside the decorator you have a wrapper function, and this wrapper function is responsible for applying that wrapper, or the wrapper is basically, the intuition is that the wrapper is the new code that you want to add to that existing function, right? So that's how the wrapper works. Wrapper and decorator together works, and then you get your functionality. Okay. Okay, so this was like a brief understanding of about decorators and wrappers. Let's quickly implement a small example. So I'll come to my code editor. I'll zoom in a bit so that you guys can see. So, okay. So now we have seen in the explanation that we need a function. We need a function. So I'm naming this function as ordinary function. Okay, this ordinary function is like your normal function. Now how normal functions are defined. And I will add a print statement inside this that prints that I am just an ordinary function. So this this ordinary function is basically just printing one line. Okay, that's how that is all it does. So if we keep it simple, then it will become very clear to basically understand how things are happening, right? Now I want some changes, okay, inside this ordinary function. So I want to execute ordinary function, and then I want to work around with how my changes can be applied. Okay, so I will define my decorator function. Decorator function. So this is my decorator function. Okay, and it will take a parameter, as we discussed on the whiteboard, that it will take a function as a parameter, right? Now this is my decorator function, and inside this decorator function I will define my wrapper function. Okay, so this is my wrapper function. Now wrapper function won't take any inputs because the input function which you want to modify is already taken inside the decorator function. So now I have access to that function. So this is my wrapper function, and I'll simply execute the function which I have passed as a parameter inside the wrapper function, right? And then in the next line, I will add a print statement, which is modification done for parameter function, right? Okay, and at the end I want to return the wrapper function, right? I want to return the wrapper function because wrapper function is what I want to see as the output, because inside the wrapper function we have already executed the ordinary function, and after executing the ordinary function I have also added the added functionality, right? So I want to see both. I want to see what my ordinary function is doing, and I want to see what my wrapper functionality is, right? So the added code. So I will both functionalities are defined inside wrapper function, right? So I'll just return wrapper function. Okay, so this is my original function, ordinary function, like how normal functions are, and this is my decorator. Okay, so inside this decorator, I want to modify the content or add some functionalities to this ordinary function, so I've taken it as a parameter, and inside the wrapper I just execute that function and print something so that the functionality is added. Okay, now my functions are defined. Let's just call it. So I'll just name it pretty. Pretty is equals to decorator. I will call now. I will now call my decorator function. And inside this decorator function, I will pass my ordinary function as a parameter, right? Because if you see the definition of decorator function, it takes an input, right? So that input is basically this ordinary function. Okay, so I have passed ordinary function inside this input of decorator function, and let's just call pretty. Okay, so now the object that I get from after calling the decorator function, I'm just calling it to execute it. Okay. Okay, so let's save this much and let's just jump into my command prompt and execute this file. So I hope it's visible, right? Yeah, so I'll navigate to that folder. Yeah, so it's in tutorial. VIR. Okay, so I will execute my demo file. Py demo.py. Okay, so now if you see, it is printing I am just an ordinary function and then modifications done for parameter function, right? Yeah, so the first thing that is getting executed is the ordinary function, because inside my wrapper function I have executed my function, right? So first line gets executed, and then the print statement. So in a way I have added this print statement inside this ordinary function. Okay, so this was just a small example to show you how decorator functions are defined, how wrapper functions are defined, and how basically we take the input and everything, right? How we pass ordinary functions to decorator function as input. So now it is printing I am just an ordinary function and modifications done for parameter function. So if you can see, first because I have executed function over here, so that's why this line got printed that I am just an ordinary function, and then the print statement also got executed because I have executed my decorator function. Okay, and inside the decorator function I have wrapper function, which basically adds some functionality. Okay, so we have seen how basically things are working, right? You have decorator, you have ordinary function, and then you do some combination, right? Now let's jump into our example part where we will uh, try to create so basically we will try to create some code evaluator. We will implement a code evaluator. Okay, so what will be how this code evaluator will work? So you will have, let's say you have some students, right? And you have given some assignments to them. Students have assignments, right? And basically it's like code assignments. And you want to verify the score of student based on their answers. Okay, so you are basically testing whether so you have given some exercises to these students, and students will give their code as as a file, and you check whether their answers are matching with the correct answer or not, and then you will give them a score. Okay, score will be either 100 or 0. 100 is if code is correct, and 0 is when code is answer is incorrect, or code or answer is incorrect. So this is basically what we are trying to create. So you would have seen these code evaluators, any online IDE, if you would have used, it's basically you upload your files, and then it tells you, okay, it's basically an online grader, right, where it grades based on the code you have submitted, right? So we will try to create that. Okay, so for that I need 3 parts. Okay, one is the response file, response.py file, in which student will write the program. Okay, the second thing is uh, I need a grader file. Okay, and uh, the third thing is evaluating the answers of grader file, right? So third part would be evaluation. So in response.py, let's call it grading.py, and let's call it evaluation.py. I mean, I can change names, but you are getting the idea that there are 3 files. One is response, where student writes the code. Second is grading, which basically which basically grades. And third part is evaluation, where we evaluate, or we see the output of grades.py. Okay, so let's get started with the implementation part, right? So the first thing that I need is my response.py, or I need the original file, right, where the student will write the code. Okay, so let's create a new file. Yeah, new file. I want an empty module, and let's just save it as so this file I'm saving it as response.py. Okay, so this is my file where the student will write the code. Okay, so this is my response.py file. So let's just let's suppose that you have asked the student to give you or return you a numpy array, okay, or a numpy 2D array. Okay, so this is your exercise. So basically this is your exercise, right? Exercise file. And so how you have done is you have first imported. So I'm writing the contents of the uh, response file, right? Import numpy as np, and then you have defined a function which is warm up exercise. Okay, so this is the function in which the students are expected to complete the code, right? Okay, so you can write some instructions inside this. So the instructions can be return the 5x5 identity matrix, right? So this can be the instructions. It's basically instructing the user to do something, right? So in this part, and you will return something, right? So this is the part where they will write the code. Okay, and complete. So the next instruction to student can be complete the code and return the file, and return the matrix as a 2D list, 2D NP array, right? So this can be the next instruction so that student know what to do. Student, they are aware of the fact that they need to implement a 5x5 identity matrix. So here they can write the code. So how student will complete the, let's say one of the students write like this, np.I, and parameter is 5, and then he returns a. Okay, so this is what student has written as their answer, right? Now you want to evaluate whether the student's answer is matching with the answer of this exercise or not, right? Okay, so this is my warm up, this is my response file, and I'll just save it. Okay, so my response file is done. Now I'll jump to my grading file, right? So I'll create a new file. So inside this grading file, we will write the logic to see or to test, okay, whether the students' answers are correct or incorrect, right? Okay, so I will name this file as grading.py. Okay, I'll save it. Okay, so now in this we will write the code for grading that response file. So obviously I have to import the response function from response, import warm up exercise. So inside the from, I'm saying from response, import this function. Okay, because I need to evaluate what is the content of my warm up exercise, where student will write the code, right? I obviously need numpy because the module is using numpy, right? Okay, now what I'll do is I will create a decorator. Okay, so in this decorator, I'm naming it as evaluator script function. Okay, evaluator script function. Okay, and this, so basically this is a decorator. Why we need this as a decorator, we'll understand. Okay, so as of now, just understand that it's a decorator, and as we have discussed in the demo file, it takes a parameter, right? So that function is basically that func. Okay, okay, now comes my wrapper. Okay, now inside this wrapper I will test. Okay, I will try to test what is the functions content. So this warm up exercise will be passed as input to this decorator. Okay, and this first I need to execute that function, right, to see what student has responded. So I want to see what student has done inside the warm up exercise, right? So first I create a decorator. Inside the decorator is my wrapper. So this inner is my wrapper, and the decorator is taking the warm up exercise as an input. So it's a function. So I have executed the function and I have stored the value in a variable. Okay, and now I want to test, right, whether students answers are correct or incorrect, right? So I create another array which is again np.I, uh, because the exercise was to return a 5x5 identity matrix, right? So I take the correct, so basically this b is my correct thing, right? So this is what I'm expecting from the student code. So now I'll just check if np dot array underscore equal, So array equal is a function of numpy, which basically gives you the functionality to see whether two arrays are same in size and same content wise. Okay, so basically you can test whether the two arrays that you have passed inside the array equal are equal in shape and content. So I test for true. If np dot array equal a comma b is true, then print print let's print something. So let's print script passed and score is 100. Okay, so because the two arrays are equal in size and content, so I'm just printing that yes, your script has passed. So this is my message. Okay, once the code passes this true condition. Okay, and the second condition, if elif, I will test for false condition, right? Yes, so else if the return of np dot array equal a comma b is false, then print that your script did not pass the evaluation, right? Script did not pass, and the score has to be 0 in that case. Okay, so these two cases takes care of when the student has completed code and hasn't made any errors, right? Like spelling mistakes or something. So you also need to take care of the spelling mistakes and stuff, right? So that's why I'm putting a try. That's why I've put the execution of function and everything inside try catch block, right? So I'll complete the exception part, except if some exception happens, then I don't want my program to terminate. So I'm handling that. If any exception happens, then I want to handle the exceptions. So if any exception happens, then just print the exception, and in that case as well, student has made the mistakes. So student has made some mistakes and hasn't completed the part, right? So in that case as well, I am printing that script did not pass and score is 0, right? So let's just give some other message. Something went, I will write something went wrong. Okay, please resubmit. Okay, so yeah, so if any exception happens, then something went wrong. I just want to give this exception message and this string that something went wrong, please resubmit. Okay, and at the end I just want to return my wrapper. Okay, so what I've done till now is I have taken a response file where a student is expected to write the code, complete the warm-up exercise, and inside the grading file I am trying to create a decorator, and in the decorator I am passing that response file or the warm-up exercise function from response file, and that file is passed as a parameter to my decorator. Okay, and now what my wrapper is doing is it is executing the warm-up exercise, and it is also testing that whether the content of the warm-up exercise is correct or not. Okay, and it is giving me some result. Okay, so my grading is complete, my response is complete. Now I just need something to see what my grading has done, right? What is the output of my grading? So I'll create another file for that. So let's call this third file as I'll name it evaluation script. Okay, let's call it evaluation script. So save as evaluation script dot py, right? Evaluation script dot py. This is my third file, in which this is simple file where I want to see the what my grading has done, right? So save that file. Okay, now this is very simple. I just want to import something, right? This file is basically importing everything from everywhere, and then it is just printing. So let's see the content of this, then we'll understand. So I'm giving the module name as grading, right? So this is my grading, right? So I'm giving the module name as grading. Now for items, let's give some space. For item in modules. Okay, so for my only item in module is grading, right? So now I want to import something. So let's write the import module 1. This is my variable. Okay, I'll just store the import string in this variable. Okay, so from then I will give the format thing, import. What I want to import? I want to import this function. Okay. Yes. I hope it's visible, right? Okay. And dot format. So in place of this curly bracket, I will give the string item of 0. Okay. And so now I just wanted to import this evaluate script function. This is like a fancy way to do that. Okay. So that everything is separated and everything looks pretty neat and stuff like that, right? That's why I'm doing thing like this. Okay, so now the second item that I want is I want the warm-up exercise, right? So, and if you see, the warm-up exercise is already present in the grading, right? So that's why I have given the module name as grading. Okay, because both the functions that I want is present inside the grading script, right? So the second function that I want is warm-up exercise. Now I'm copying it from this file, but it's already imported in the grading file, right? From respose import warm-up exercise. So I'll just write here. So basically what this statement is, from grading import evaluator script function, and from grading import warm-up exercise. Okay, so that would be my import statements. And then I'll just execute these import statements. Import module 1. So basically from a string you are importing something, right? Import module 1, and then at the end import module 2. I will just execute these things, and now since my stuff is imported now, right? So now I'll just execute. So evaluation result is equal to evaluate script function. So this would be my decorator, right? And inside the decorator, I want to pass a function which is warm-up exercise. Okay. And then I will just call evaluation result function. So this is the result of the decorator. So I want to see what it is printing, right? Okay. So now let's save this and let's just run my evaluation script. So I'm in the same folder, Python evaluation script.py. Okay, so it's saying that it's saying that no module named response. So okay, so this file is being named as response comma py. Okay. Okay, so I'll go to that folder, desktop, tutorial, and I'll change the name of response py .py file. So let's just name it. So as you can see, it's named response comma py, right? I just want a response. Okay, so this is done. Okay, let's close this once again and let's, yeah. So now it's response.py, right? Okay, so let's run it once again. And it is printing. If you can see, it is printing script passed, your score is 100. Okay. So what happened is, this was my response file, right? This is where the student is expected to write code. So he has written A is np.I5. I wanted 5 cross 5 identity matrix, right? So he has correctly made that identity matrix. And so if you want to see, I will just show you what does np.I mean. Import numpy as np. Okay, now if I execute the np.I equals 5, and if I print it, yeah, so this is what the student has returned. Okay, so it's a identity matrix of size 5, right? And that is what I was expecting, right? That is what I was expecting from the student, right? To completely return me the correct identity 5 cross 5 matrix, and that's what he has returned. In the grading file, I have created a decorator where I wanted to work with this. Why I have defined this as a decorator? Because I wanted to execute warm-up exercise, because I wanted to see what the student has written, right? And then after that, I wanted some added functionalities, which was to check and compare that output with what I want, right? So here we have done the comparison by first we executed the warm-up exercise, which is a is equal to function. Then we tested and we created some conditions that if the result is true, then so basically it is printing script passed the score this one, because the np.array equal a comma b is coming to be true, right? Okay. And then so yeah, we checked for it, and we have defined everything inside this decorator. Because why decorator? Because I wanted to execute the function and I wanted some added functionalities. That's what we discussed, right, in the starting. If you see the starting of the discussion, I had a function and I wanted some added functionality in that. So that's why I defined the decorator. If you see my demo file, I already had a function. I wanted to execute that function and wanted some additional functionalities or some work that needs to be done on that function, right? So for that purpose, I defined a decorator. So here, same way in the grading file, I have defined a decorator which takes the warm-up exercise and then it runs some computations and gives me the result, right? And here the task is to evaluate the script which is submitted by the user, right? So we have evaluated the script, and now in the evaluation script, I'm just running everything. Okay. I'm just importing my decorator function, and I want warm up exercise because warm up exercise is the input of the decorator function, right? So I have executed, and then it printed me that the result is fine and script passed and the score is 100. Okay, because my response file is correctly done. Now let's say you are checking for a 5x5 identity matrix, right? Let's say the student has written some in wrong code, or he is returning identity matrix but of size 6x6. Okay, so that's why I've made this change over here. Instead of 5, I've written 6. And let's save it. Now let's go to the terminal and see what my program is printing. Okay, so because you want a identity 5x5 matrix, but the student in its response file is returning you a 6x6 matrix. So that is why when I run the evaluation script, it prints me that script did not pass and the score is 0, right? Okay, let's suppose let's take the third case. So we have taken both the cases, where one case is that student is returning the correct output, accuracy is 100. The second case is that student is returning something, but the output is not correct, or it's not a 5x5 matrix. So the accuracy score was 0. The third case can be that student is returning correctly, but he has made some mistake. So instead of NP, he is using only N. So it's basically some grammatical mistake, right? So his intention was correct only. So he wanted to, like, he wrote the correct code, but he missed a P in this script. So in that case also, you should not get the output, right? So that is my third case in the grading. That is my third case where some exception happens. So I have also handled the exception, any exception, right? So in case of any exception, it should print the message that what is the exception, why the file did not pass, and then the score thing, right? So let's just execute. Yes. So now if you see, the student haven't used in the proper module name, which is NP. He has just used N, so it should not pass. And after running the evaluation script, it is giving name N is not defined. Something went wrong. Please resubmit. Your score is 0. Okay. And once again, if I fix it to correct, which is NP, if I fix everything to correct module name, and if I run, now the script is correct, it is returning, everything is fine. So it prints the message, script passed, score is 100. Okay. Yeah, so in this lecture, we saw how basically decorators work. Okay. And what are decorators, what are wrappers? So we saw a basic definition of it, then we saw some example code, and then using that example code, we extended that to create a simple script evaluator. Okay. So I hope the concept of decorators and wrappers was clear to you. And yeah, you can always learn something more about it and find some good resources about decorators and wrappers and try to implement something. Okay, so that's all from my side for this lecture. I hope you learned something new, and if you have any doubts, or if you have any questions, you can post them as a comment. You can leave your comment. It can be any doubt, it can be anything, any query, any post, any questions that you might have regarding this uh, regarding this session or regarding Python in general. Any doubts, you can just leave it as a comment, and I'll make sure that I will try to answer your queries. Okay, so that's all from my side, and I'll see you next time very soon. Until then, take care and stay safe. Okay.